Hey, welcome back to the show. It is officially Creatively Performing Arts, the Creatively Performing Arts podcast, and I'm your host, Estelle. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for listening today. Today's episode is going to be part two of an interview that I did on the Creative Conversations podcast. It's a podcast hosted by the incredible Briana Elmore, and she has like all these great conversations with creatives, and I'm so honored and so grateful that I was able to be on the show. So, you're about to hear part two of the interview. In part one, I really talked about like the beginning stages of moving from one path to the other, to another path, to the creative path, and how hard that really was for me emotionally, and all the things that went into that, and trusting God with the creative passions that He's given me. And yeah, so here's the rest of the story basically, which will get you caught up to speed to where I am now, being in the messy middle of like beginner middle. Like I started, and I know how hard it is to get started, right? And that's why I love doing this show, because I get to encourage you all to to get started, how to start singing, dancing, and acting again. Like I know how hard that can be, and so I'm so glad to share this with you. I get vulnerable in it. I talk about what was really going on. So I hope it inspires you. I hope it encourages you, reminds you that you're not alone. And if you're just starting to start singing, acting, and dancing and performing again, I hope this reminds you that you're not alone. So, we're going to get into that. Before we do, and before I run the intro and everything, I also want to talk about something really exciting. I am opening up 5 beginner voice coaching spots, 50% off, because I'm testing out this kind of new model of voice coaching where I really help performers be more confident in their singing voices, so you can start singing and performing with confidence, right? It's still beginner voice coaching, but the focus is really to help you at the end of the hour. You're going to have your own plan, a singing plan for you as a beginner singer, to that includes an easy vocal warm-up for you, and you're going to know exactly how to sing a verse and at least the verse and the chorus of your song. You are going to really have started building that confidence in your voice at the end of the hour. So you know exactly what's happening, you know exactly where you are vocally, and I'm so excited to do this because, again, only 5 spots, but I know that at the end of it, I'll be able to get feedback from you as to how it felt for you, how you thought your confidence building throughout the session, and you're really gonna get, by the end of it, you'll have the basics of how to practice singing on your own. You'll have your own simple warm up that you can do at literally any time, and you'll know how to work through a song with confidence in your vocal abilities so far, just at the end of this 1 hour. So again, this is for market research that I'm doing for this business, and it is 50% off. You will not get this again. Okay, this is a great deal. Actually, I might do it again, but probably not, right? So I don't know. It's a great deal. So let's sing together. Let's build confidence in your voice. Message me at Estelle Avberry on Instagram, or email me at estelleavberry@gmail.com for this special rate. All the links are in the show notes, okay? Do not miss out on this. Like, you know that you need to get back into voice. You know that you need to get back into singing. You know that you have a passion for performing, and you need to grow it vocally, and you need to grow in your confidence and your vocal abilities. Don't put it off anymore, okay? The end of the year is coming quick, okay? Do not be putting it off. Let's get together. Let's start singing. This is a one-time only, as far as I can tell, okay? So 5 1-hour voice lessons, 50% off. That is $25, okay? So come on over. Let's sing together. I only have 5 spots, so run, and let's get going, okay? I'm so excited to bring this episode to you. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hey performer, welcome to the Creatively Performing Arts podcast. Are you ready to get back to your creative passion for singing and performing again? Do you find yourself Googling, is it too late to start dancing, or songs for auditions? Do you wake up with big creative goals only to think, if only I kept training, or I'll never be good enough? Hi, I'm Estelle, beginner singing coach, performing artist, 20-something musical theater lover, and Christ-centered creative, I also grew up performing, and after college, I felt called to start intentionally using these gifts again, but I thought it was too late to get training and it was selfish to make time for the arts. But then I realized the solution is to just get started. In this podcast, you're going to find beginner singing and performing tips, inspiration from amazing performing artists, and help to overcome fear and imposter syndrome so that you can finally start singing, acting, and dancing again. So pause your Broadway playlist, take a vocal rest, and submit that last audition self-tape, honey, because the show is starting and you're the star of it. Let's begin.
Check out One Choice Magazine, your trusted resource for wellness, personal growth, and spiritual development. Read articles that educate, uplift, and inspire readers to live well. Get the latest issue at onechoicemag.com.
But yeah, so my first, so after COVID started, and that's really what was like what shook my sort of like desire to be an artist a little bit, is because of COVID. I was like, well, the arts aren't even a thing right now. Like I was kind of, I think what you said earlier is that what COVID did was it shook people to say, oh, like I'm gonna do what I want to do. And I think that's very true. But I think there are like two sides of it. There is that side of like sort of not recklessness, but sort of like well, what we might as well do what we want to do now. But I think for me, there's also this side of just like fear and like, oh, like I like, this is scary. Like the economy is different, like everything is different. Like I need to be careful. I need to be very careful. I need to protect myself, and secure myself financially and all that. Not that spending a lot of money on medical school is securing yourself financially, but I had gotten to this program. I had gotten a really substantial scholarship to this program, and I was like, I need to be smart about what I'm doing. Like, I can't be an artist right now. Like, there's a pandemic. There is no arts. Who knows how long this will last? And I think the anxiety of that, on top of the fact that, I was again feeling that that I needed that external validation. And it was just something that had been built up for so long, over so many years, and all these limiting beliefs and lies that I told myself that I can't be an artist. I can't be an artist. Like I can't do that. So even when I felt that switch that like, oh, this is what I know God is calling me towards, and I wanted so badly to do it, I still felt like I couldn't quite do it and be like logical and be smart. And like that wasn't like a good decision on paper, and it wouldn't give me external validation and all these things. So yeah, I went to school, and the first 2 semesters were actually online. So I was doing it from home. And at that point I started med school. I was 21 years old. So again, I didn't really know what I was doing. Okay, let's just put that out there.
But
I did know.
does
But at the
one
same time, I
ever
did
does
know.
one ever know what they're doing?
Right.
No,
When does that
nobody ever really
end?
knows what they're doing.
When
But
does that feeling
honestly,
go away?
it doesn't. It's always gonna be
Yeah.
something that you don't really know what you're doing, or it's
Right.
like you're stepping into different territory because you're a
Mm-hmm.
different version of yourself. It could be something you're familiar with, but um
Yes.
2022 Estelle versus 2020,
Twenty.
2019,
Yeah.
2021. It's a different Estelle. You know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah.
evolving with each year and each day, really. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, is it really? Is it really one way to
Yeah.
do things? No, it's not. It's not one way of looking at stuff. It's not one way of approaching anything. So,
Yeah.
give
Thank
yourself
you for
grace.
that. Thank you for that. Really, thank you for that reassurance, because that's like a that was like a balm to my soul, like a healing, because
Mhm.
that feels very good to hear that, like, yes, I can give myself grace, that we are all in process again. That's that
Yeah.
same idea. We're all in process. Yeah.
Listen, and it's like, so doing that to you helps me affirm it within myself. So that's why I feel
Right.
like I have to do it. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? It's
Thank
like I have
you.
to give it up where it's due. So
Yeah.
I heard you talking about, like, you really were concerned about external opinion and pleasing
Mm.
others. And it's nothing wrong to please people around you. It's
Oh
fine
yeah.
if that's fine, but where it becomes problematic is when when you're doing it despite yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you're doing it and you're going against yourself. So when was the time where you're like, you know what? I'm gonna give myself some internal validation and I'm
Yeah.
not gonna really go off of the external as much.
Yeah.
Even though it's like, okay, especially like as creatives, you make content, you make art to be consumed, hopefully, by someone, and whoever it's meant for is who it's meant for, right? But
Mhm.
what point did you give yourself like the validation? It's like, okay, some of the validation got to come from me too, y'all, because this is crazy. I cannot just be living my life for everyone else. What happened with that process? Because I'm interested to understand that, because I know you. So we were in medical school, we weren't really feeling it, but it was like I don't have anything better to do because I've been doing this whole like line of study. I'm completely in medical school. So what made what made you feel like, you know what?
Yeah.
Even though I'm in medical school, like what was the first step out of that
Hmm.
realm of pleasing others to starting to please yourself with what you do with your career?
Yeah. So it was definitely it was a process. So I eventually came to Barbados and I started my podcast, and it was all about being creative while I was in medical school. So I was like, I really want to talk about like my what I'm experiencing and like how I was still trying to keep up with singing. I would do covers. I would still, you know, try to grow as a vocalist even in my like my little like room, on
Mhm.
campus and everything. And I enjoyed my time there. I really did, and I'm so grateful and blessed to have had the opportunity. Like it's a huge privilege to even go in the first place, and so I don't take that aspect for granted. And I think that what happened was, well, what happened was, academically things were, not, my heart was not like, my heart and my head weren't fully in it, even though I was trying. But at the same time, I was definitely being pulled in a different direction, mentally and emotionally and spiritually, I think. And I think, by the end of last December, that like end of that semester, I was just, really in a different space mentally and emotionally. I saw this counselor who was on my campus, on campus counselor, who's also a Christian, and she was really helpful and just like helping me kind of work through like what I was feeling, what I was going through, and what next steps would be best for me. Especially considering like how I was doing academically, and so I just decided that I was going to come home and take some time to really reevaluate. And I didn't think it would make sense. Well, I knew it wouldn't make sense for me to continue spending so much money and so much time and effort in something that I did not have 100% clarity on. So I was like, you're allowed to take breaks and all that. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take this semester off, take some time off. And at that time, I also kept hearing that call, like that feeling that call of like, yes, like I know that it's time to go. I know that it's time to really embrace who I am as an artist. And this time it wasn't like I told you, there were like two moments where I had that switch where I'm like, oh, I'm a creative.
Mhm.
That first time, it was like one step in in the water. We're talking about like a walk of faith. It was like one step in the water.
Mhm.
I was filling out the water and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I am this, but I wasn't fully jumping in. I wasn't jumping out of the boat of safety 100%. And then the second time was really the big turning point, I think. I mean, we'll see years down the line and looking back if that'll still be the case. But I really think that so far has been like one of the biggest turning points, was really seeing that like this is what I love. Like I would have like envisioned myself like, performing on stage. I would envision myself teaching classes and helping inspiring other artists. And I think the podcast really helped me come to this realization, because I interviewed a lot of medical students who also were artists,
Mhm.
and I would talk about my experience balancing being in med school and also being an artist. And I just kept feeling like, oh, I just want to talk about being an artist. I just want to talk about being
Right.
creative. I just want to talk about singing and and voice technique and the things that I'm learning as I like kind of self teach and work on what I learned in college about the voice. And I want to talk about musicals and I was like that's what I want to talk about more. And it was because I was taking action in that way of doing the podcast, I started to have this realization for myself as well at the same time over time. But yes, at the same time, I was having this realization. I was talking to these med students who were really content with having art be just like a hobby or a side hustle or something that they did on the side. And I was like, I don't relate. Like, I just don't relate. Like, I love that for you, genuinely. Like, that's amazing. And I really appreciated them sharing their stories. And I loved those interviews, honestly. But it also gave me a lot of clarity to be like, I kind of don't want it to just be like just a little thing on the side. Like, I actually want that to be my career. Like, I really want to serve in this way. Like, I knew I wanted to serve and help just like people in the medical profession, but I knew I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do it through the arts, and I just didn't. I finally gave myself permission by the end of December, going to January this year. I finally gave myself permission to say, you know what? I have held limiting beliefs. I've told myself these lies, and it's really just kept me stuck. It has not done any good for me. It has not
Yeah.
helped me, walk in purpose or do anything, or do, it hasn't done anything mentally and emotionally in that sense.
Get great tips while networking with other creators across the world when you join the One Choice Magazine newsroom. The newsroom is where editors, contributors, and freelancers for One Choice Magazine gather to tell stories, exchange insider information, and develop their expertise. When you join the community, you will get access to workshops, deals on software, creator tools, and special episodes of the Creative Conversations podcast. If you are a creator looking for a safe space to see the beauty in what you do and develop your talent, join the One Choice Magazine newsroom. You can follow on social media at One Choice Mag Newsroom and sign up for the mailing list online at onechoicemag.com.
So I was like, you know what? I know that this is a gift that God has given me, these creative gifts. I'm going to just embrace it and let God lead from there, and just know that yes, I can embrace this. I can put my stake in the ground finally and go all in and say yes, like I am an artist and I'm going to figure out a way to do my art, a way to serve other artists, with what I'm learning about embracing myself as an artist and embracing my creativity. And that's what I'm going to do. And from there, I started working on rebranding the podcast, and I came back home. I started working, um, and, to just keep working. And I was also applying for jobs and stuff, but I was like, let me just work at my job in healthcare that I had after college anyway. So I just
Mm-hmm.
went back to working, and yeah, and started working on my podcast more, rebranded, started auditioning and stuff like that, and singing more, started dance classes, started voice lessons recently, and I was in a play earlier this year or a couple months ago, and I'll be doing more. So it's been like a complete turnaround, just because I was able to finally take that really hard step of embracing who I am really, and not lying to myself and frankly to
Mm-hmm.
other people about who I am and who I want to be. And it's very freeing, but also I don't want to neglect the fact that it is hard to, fully say, oh, I want to be an artist, or like this is who I really am,
Mm-hmm.
when you've known one other identity for so long, even if it wasn't really what you wanted. But yes,
Yeah.
so it was emotionally and mentally, it's still in process, and that's something I just want everyone to know, like listeners to know, like it's not like it was like a next day thing. And so yeah.
Yeah. Well, one, I'm super happy for you and proud of you because to be able to do that, because sometimes I think what we do just as people, right? You see
Mhm.
one path as being, and this is what has been like instilled even by society, not even necessarily familiar or anything else.
Yeah,
Like in
it's
school
society.
and in society, things are told to you like this is what you're supposed to be doing. Like if you want to be successful, or if you want to be, it's really hard to be successful if you go this way or that
Right.
way. But I think that some is so it's like so you need to be have a more solid whatever path career
Mhm.
path, right? And that's what's told to you. That's what you're like, okay, well, I'm supposed to go through life. If I even if I don't like it, this is what I gotta do, right? You're told that, but then some and you might go down that path towards doing these things that you're supposed to do to please whoever, right? But
Right.
you are so like detached from your work. right? You're so that you become depleted by doing something. First of all, it's like you doing something you love, you can be depleted and need a break.
Yeah.
So it's like if I'm doing something I
Imagine,
really
right?
don't like and I'm super depleted because I don't like it on a good day. I hate this job. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like and you can correct me or you can confirm or whatever, right? But do you feel like okay, doing the less stable thing to do, right? Or going down more of a creative path where you're literally building that up from the foundation and it's not as much like concrete, I'm sure this is
Hmm.
going to be it, right? Moments, but you feel so much better doing that with a little
Yeah.
less stability than you do with the stuff that's supposed to be stable if it's not for you. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's funny how like a lot, at least that's how my creative story is going as well, where you thinking like, oh, this is the path I should be on, this is what I should be doing, this is right because that's what I'm supposed to do. This is supposed to be right.
Right.
I'm supposed to, carry the torch to this place. And you get there and it sucks. And it's not even that much more money or fulfillment there because you got all the other things that come with that territory.
Exactly.
And then you switch over to something that you find much more gratifying. And it's like I'm exploring it and figuring it out every day that I try it, just like you said with podcasting. We love a good podcast story because like I feel that same way. Like when it's times where I feel not sure about what I'm gonna do, or even feel like I don't know if anybody even cares, if anybody's even listening to the podcast. I don't know. But it feels good to me to be able to put that into it and to be able to put positivity just into the atmosphere even
Yes.
through having a good conversation with another creative oriented person like yourself. You know what I mean? For me, that's doing good. And if somewhere down the line things come from that, that's amazing. But in the meantime, I'm sharpening myself. And I
Yeah.
feel like I feel more levity in doing that than I
Yes.
ever did with something that was stable. You know what I'm saying? I feel
You're
more free.
100% correct. Yeah. I completely agree. Yeah.
Well, quote unquote stable, because I think you can have stability and creativity. It's just all about how you're planning and what you're
Hmm.
doing. And I just love that you're doing like auditions, and
Yeah.
it's freeing to do that. And it's like some of it is nerve wracking, obviously, I'm sure, but a lot of it is also freeing because it's like, okay, well, we're one audition closer to what is it,
Yeah.
or we are one audition, away. Okay, well, we got
Away
that
from
out
the
of the
thing.
way,
Yeah.
away from something that I didn't like doing. So even though, you get it, you don't, it's like, okay, we're moving on and this is good. It all
Right.
adds to the repertoire. You keep getting better as you
Yes.
keep doing more things. And that's what I love about being a creative. No matter what it is
100%.
that you're doing, if you just keep at it and keep at what you're doing, you're going to get better. Something's going to pop, something's going to shake, rattle, and roll because it don't have no choice. I'm continuing. If you're putting in the work and
Yeah.
you're putting in the intentionality behind what you're doing, something is going to come from
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And I think, and I'm not gonna deny I'm my privilege. Like I'm very privileged right now. I'm home. I'm home in
it.
North Carolina. I'm living rent free in my, the house that I grew up in, and loving being back with family. Very grateful for that opportunity. I'm so grateful. And I never want to, deny the fact that like not everyone has that opportunity to go home and have that privilege, to be taken care of in that way. And but the thing is, I also know that with the career that I want, I'm not going to stay in North Carolina for long. So there will be other challenges that are going to
Okay, eat
come
that up while
very
you're
soon.
there. Okay,
Right.
yes.
Oh yeah, girl, we are saving, honey. Okay, okay, that's why we're continuing to work, we're continuing to save. But yeah, so and I'm already planning, like, what's coming next, and how can I continue to move forward towards this career that's not just a dream, but it's actually happening, and I'm actually like taking those steps. And that dream for me is, I don't know if I clarified it very well, but it's not just performing on stage. Like I love performing and I want to do that, but I also want to I'm starting a voice coaching business and
Mhm.
expand that to performing arts center, performing arts business, virtual, and then eventually in person, because I really want to inspire and impact the next, generation, next artists or other artists too, who are like me and who are, young adults or whatever, to really embrace their creative giftings. And that's what I talk about on my podcast. My podcast is it's all a part of that. It's all wrapped up in the vision of
Mhm.
not just being an artist, but helping to be there for other artists, whether that's providing like technique classes in music, theater, and dance,
Mhm.
and whether that's providing counseling or coaching and having those services available. And so that's really the goal and the dream ultimately. But for now, we're just taking those steps towards that. And I know that it's a long journey, and I'm happy to go along the ride. Just like you said, there is that levity in the fact that you're not working towards someone else's dream, you're working towards your own dream. You can work for someone else's dream, or you can work towards your own dream, and there's more intentionality and there's more purpose in that, in my opinion. And so that's really what I'm trying to do. So yeah.
Listen, and I love that. I love that. But then that's always been your purpose,
Mm,
no matter what your from conversation, no matter what your jurisdiction
right.
of your career was. So medical jurisdiction, you want to help people. Creatively, we're going to figure out how I can spend what I love to do into something that's
Right.
going to be able to be of service to others outside of myself. And I think that that's super important. And that is like, that's amazing to hear. I
Thank you
have
for
one more
saying that.
question.
Yeah.
You're welcome. It's important, okay? Because all of that authenticity that comes through in your
Mm.
work. You know what I'm saying? And like you say you go to, your church, so you're going to be with me when I say it's a blessing to be a blessing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So, you're blessed if you bless others with your talents, and you
Exactly.
don't get these talents to just keep them to yourself. I'm a big believer
Yes.
in that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Everybody has something intricate about themselves that's like literally an innate talent or skill or way of thinking. And you're supposed to utilize that to somehow either help others or just continue to level in some type of way and push
100%.
forward. I have one more question for you because we've been talking and this has been an
Yay.
amazing conversation, and
Thank you.
I'm super excited. Like I'm literally looking at my list
It
of
has
questions, so I'm
been. It's
looking
been
down.
so good. No, you're good.
It has. So, what parts of your journey do you want to share with listeners as a way to help them maneuver their own? So, if
Mm.
you, so base, so that, but then I have maybe I have a follow up question.
Okay.
But yes, what about that? Let's chew on that one first.
Yeah. I hope that listeners can learn from, my mistakes and my quote unquote failures. And, I did end up I am in the process of really pivoting in a pretty major way. And so I just hope listeners will hear that and know that, that creative gifting that you have, don't ignore it and don't put it to the side. Really dig into that. It doesn't mean that you have to tomorrow like quit your job or do, completely change your path, but just listen to that. Like start to take small steps of action in that and really start embracing how you might use those gifts if you feel that drawing towards it. And I'm assuming that if you're listening to this show, you definitely feel that drawing. So don't ignore it. Really lean into that and really take that action, take some action steps towards that. And again, I always, like we said, and I always say on the show, my show, and I said it like 50,000 times. Remember that it's a journey, and like there will be ups and downs. And I'm still young, so I know there are gonna be more ups and downs. Woohoo! I'm just like getting ready for it. I say that now, but once I'm in the down, I don't know how I'll be saying what I'll be saying,
Nobody
but
likes the down, but it
nobody
fuels
likes
the up. It fuels like
right.
how hard we about to come up. Like we have to.
Exactly,
And
like a
even like
phoenix rising from the ashes.
yeah, and that reminded me when you were talking, it reminded me of like I think Will Smith said it, fail forward. Okay.
Mm,
It's like we always had, like, even if it's something small, lean into it a little bit. And at the very least, you can figure out what it is that you don't want to do as you come on to your path. And it's like, even if it's like, oh, I would never ever try to do this ever again in my life, you can still pull something from this experience and push yourself forward into what it is that you do want to do. So
Yeah.
it's never really a failure. It's just a learned lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. And thank you for saying that. That's really encouraging. So yeah, that's awesome. That's it.
Yeah,
There you go.
there you go. Last question. What would you right now, Estelle,
Mhm.
tell 2019, December 2019,
Ooh.
Estelle? What would you tell her? Just one piece of advice.
Mm. Wow, that's really deep. I think I would say listen to the call. Like listen to what you know you're meant to go towards and just go full force and don't look back. Yeah. Yeah. And put your stake in the ground, go all in and be the artist that you know you want to be.
Absolutely. I love that. And I have loved this conversation. Please tell us again where we can follow you and how we can support you. I know we'll have, your podcast name
Mhm.
and like the link
Yeah.
to your page in the description, but please let us know how we can support you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for listening to this. I really appreciate you. So you can find me at Estelle Avberry, first and last name on Instagram. And you can also find me at creativelybyestelle.com. That's my website. And like all the stuff is there. If you're a singer, aspiring singer, like I do voice coaching and group workshops, voice workshops there too. And it's all on the website. And then you can of course listen to the podcast, and that's where like I talk a lot, like I share a lot about what I'm learning from other creatives and do interviews and everything there. And I talk about all the other things that I'm doing and learning along the way. So definitely listen to my podcast. It's called Creatively by Estelle, podcast for creative and performing artists, and you can listen on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
Excellent. And please definitely go and support Estelle, follow her, like, subscribe to all the
Yes.
things.
Oh, and I'm
And
on TikTok too. I'm sorry.
she's on
I'm on
TikTok.
TikTok at Estelle Asbury _, and I do like a musical theater song of the day challenge. Not every single day, but I do like musical theater song clips there. So if you're a musical theater fan, you want to go over there because we have fun.
Okay, we have a good time. We have a good
Yeah.
time. And speaking of have a good time, I absolutely had a great time with you today, Estelle.
Me
Thank you so
too.
much for being a part of this podcast. And you guys, make sure you go and support Estelle in any and every way that you possibly can. As always, subscribe and leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed the show. Be sure to share it with a creative person to encourage them on their journey, and tag the newsroom at One Choice Mag Newsroom on Facebook and Instagram. It's only up from here.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Creatively by Estelle. I hope you feel encouraged by today's episode as you start this week. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to just share this episode with a friend if you liked it, or with someone who you think this could be encouraging to. It would really help the show. Also, if you really loved this episode, if you wouldn't mind going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a review and rating this show, it would really help us reach more people through this show and grow our Creatively community. All right, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.